Hey everybody, we're back with another TV show spoiler review. It's just one season here. We're covering the Spider-Man, the new animated series, season 1, the only season. It was airing in the early 2000s on MTV. But it's like a crying shame. It was very good. Like, I really enjoyed it. And it's like this, because apparently despite the reverence people had, the good, like the positive feedback they got about the show, they didn't, I guess they didn't have the funds to continue forward. The showrunners said that they had the funding, they would have continued on with the second season with, more Kraven the Hunter and like the Vulture and Mysterio. But this is a heck of a lot of fun. Like, you got Neil Patrick Harris as Peter Parker, Spider-Man in this, and it's like there's a reason why he was cast in Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions as the main 616 one, because in terms of voice actors, Christopher Barnes, Neil Patrick Harris, the guy from Spectacular Spider-Man, and the guy who voices him in Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends are the quintessential, and Yuri Lowenthal are the quintessential Spider-Man voice actors, and like each one knocked it out of the park. Because when it comes to like kind of characters like Batman, you only get like Kevin Conroy. You'd be hard pressed to like try to remember other Batman voice actors aside from what's his name, who voiced him in Lego Batman, because he voiced him in Lego Batman and in The Brave and the Bold. And of course you got I remember the shows, but you don't remember the voice actor's name offhand, at least not that well, unless you like one of those huge Batman fans that can probably do that. But anyway, it's only 13 seasons. It's on Disney Plus, so you can easily check it out in like a good one good sitting, maybe two. And yeah, the graphics in this, I mean, they hold up fine, but of course, like, when the show came out, it was like what, 2003. So 20 years. It's been 20 years. That's wild to me since this show was released. But you can tell that I did my spoiler review last year of Iron Man Armored Adventures, which you can check out on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/talkativecarl. Try to get, by the way, just try to get this video to 100 likes, and check out my spoiler review on each one of those seasons of Armored Adventures. And yeah, follow me on my Twitter, Patreon, Twitch, my Odyssey, Instagram. All that stuff is in the links in the description below. I think when this came out, it's kind of like, part of me felt like they was probably using a combination. The graphics kind of remind me of somewhere between Spider-Man 2 from the PS2 era mixed with Ultimate Spider-Man game from like GameCube era. It's like, especially the GameCube game. I'm pretty sure it was on other platforms too, but I had it on the GameCube. And if you look up like Ultimate Spider-Man game, which is another game that needs to be a remaster. If you remake a lot of these games, you should remake games that's been like 20 years, like the Punisher game, Ultimate Spider-Man. Bring games like that back, because they were a heck of a lot of fun. But anyway, the graphics gave me those same vibes of the art direction. And I bring up Iron Man Armored Adventures for a reason, because this kind of feels like the MTV Spider-Man kind of feels, its graphics is kind of like the precursor to the graphics we'll see in Armored Adventures that's done, a bit better. And I commented on like the graphics in that, even though that show came out around like 08, and it lasted 3 seasons. Yeah, so here the graphics can look pretty good. Other times a little iffy. Like there was one shot I remember very distinctly that kind of looked a little rough, where it's kind of like something hasn't finished rendering in the game, and you rise up over above the clouds to look upon the city, and it's like the graphics looks like you should have stopped when you hit the clouds, man. It's not looking too good. But anyway, you get nice little cameos from certain actors who play certain characters. Keith David plays like a FBI agent. You got Michael Clark Duncan voicing the Kingpin, who already had played him in a live-action Daredevil film starring Ben Affleck. Michael Dorn as Kraven the Hunter. Jeremy Piven and Kathy Griffin as the gang's brother and sister. Rob Zombie as the Lizard. The musical artist Eve as Cyan/Talon, which we'll get into in a minute, but she was like a very low rent black cat. Even though she had a cool design, and I loved like Eve's portrayal of the character, it's like I don't know. It's like you couldn't. I guess Sony wouldn't allow you to use black cat for some reason. I guess, and you had to create some discount version of it. It was that's kind of whack. You got Virginia Madsen as Silver Sable, Clancy Brown as like a bodyguard. Not her bodyguard, but a bodyguard. Gina Gershon as the Ronin Shikaka. Shish Kebab, Shawshank Redemption, Chicago. Cree Summer as Professor Williams. Tara Strong as Christina. In like one episode of Head Over Heels. Devon Sawa as Flash Thompson. Ethan Embry as Max Dillon, Electro. John C. McGinley as Richard Damon, the boss of Clancy Brown's bodyguard. Ed Asner as a police officer who shows up in like 4 episodes. Harold Perrineau Jr., if you don't know the character, if you watch the Constantine TV series, or at least the season, he plays an angel in that. And you got James Masters as Sergei Kravenov. So, I mean, like, it's a nice episodic show. The problem is, unless you got, like, the actual DVD box set, any other outlet, like Disney Plus, for some odd reason, has half of the season, the episodes are out of order half the time. I thought that was pretty odd. If you're streaming it, you should automatically have it in order. It's the same way with like the Batman animated series. For some reason, like, you got that out of order unless you actually have like the DVD box set. That's so weird to me. Anyway, I think this is one of my favorite versions of Peter Parker, because I want to make a note of this. He rarely, if not at all, complains about his life of being Spider-Man until like the tail end of the season. And it's so refreshing, because like in most iterations of Spider-Man, he's always complaining about his like, oh my god, my life as Spider-Man is so hard, I can't do this or that, and he's moaning and groaning about that a lot in a lot of cases, except for maybe like the PS4 game, where he's pretty much settled into his role as a hero. And it's like, it's just refreshing. I love Spider-Man. He's one of my favorite heroes of all time. As a critique, I get so, 2 things. I get kind of annoyed with the whole him taking that great power, great responsibility thing way too far, because he's trying to take everything as his responsibility if something goes wrong with anything that he's associated with, which is kind of like ludicrous. And then his constant complaint about his life as a hero. Here's the thing. When he has the powers, when he first got the powers, up to the whole Spider-Man No More story, and then eventually, got it. He returned to being a hero. From that little gap in the time frame is the only time I should be hearing his complaints about his life as Spider-Man and how hard it is living a double life and blah 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 blah. And it's like, I don't want to hear it anymore. You're pretty much settled into it. Moments when you get your powers taken away, it's like you get phantom limb or something like that. You start to miss it. You start doing things that you used to do, but when you had the powers and you can't do it anymore, now people are in trouble and you feel like you can do something, you have to do something. And once you get the powers back, I know, like Marvel writers have to do the whole status quo thing, watch, rinse, repeat, but it's dull now. It's like, okay, you gotta let that part go. Just like they need to get over the fact that Spider-Man needs to be with Mary Jane, married. I just, did a comic book review, which you can check out on my YouTube channel, of a different universe called MC2, where Spider-Man and Mary Jane actually got married, actually had children, and his daughter is the new protagonist. And it proves that you can actually do it and make a good story, but you don't want to age out your readers. It's like, shut up. But anyway, this show, like I said, it's actually pretty doggone good. Check it out on Disney Plus. But there are some characters like Talon who are just made up for this show, because Sony probably wouldn't allow the showrunners to utilize certain characters that they probably would have used, like Talon. Like I said, a discount when you see her in an episode. What was it? Head Over Heels, or no? It was Keeping Secrets episode. And when you see her in action, it's like, yeah, this is pretty much like a discount Black Cat, and it's kind of like a shame, because this is a Black Cat centered kind of story. But you also get this character called Turbojet, which is pretty much like a play on Rocket Racer. If you watch my spoiler review on the 90s Spider-Man animated series, there's a character called Rocket Racer who was pretty much using like a propulsion type of like skateboard thing, but here he has like a full-on suit that, he's an engineer, he can just make proto Iron Man type of armament that he used to Beautiful Joe himself and things forward and backwards. If you don't know who Beautiful Joe is, he's a Capcom video game character, and he has powers like kind of like fast forwarding and slow things down kind of thing. So and you got the design of Mary Jane here. I don't hate, but I don't love, because she got like a peanut head. 2 months ago, a peanut head, and the redhead hair isn't doing much to help, in my opinion. But I like her portrayal, like her, the voice actor and the way she's portrayed here. Just her design is like, could have done a little bit better. But this version of Harry Osborn, I think I like the most. The only thing I wish he's just like, I think this is not, because they're all in college at this point, and you don't see May in this, thank God, because I guess we trying to steer away from not seeming like we're copying the 90s Spider-Man TV show, which has great reverence for a lot of fans who grew up on that show. So they're trying to do something different. I love the design of Peter Parker here, I really do. But yeah, you don't get Aunt May in this. You get a picture of her and Uncle Ben and Peter's parents. That's all you get here. You don't, of course, if they were allowed to continue on with the show, I imagine you would have got Aunt May at some point. But I just kind of hope they don't do what the 90s did in their show with, like, she's so, like, like, so feeble. And it's like, oh, God, it's like, oh, he's so fragile, my poor nephew. Oh my God, the Spider-Man, what's he doing in my house? Oh, None of that crap. Thank God. It kind of had it up to here with like that version of anime. Um, I think Sally Field in the Amazing Spider-Man movies was like the appropriate age for Aunt May, where she's not an old crone, but she isn't like a supermodel hot like Melissa Tomei, because like as soon as Melissa Tomei was introduced as Aunt May for the MCU, everybody's talking about how like, okay, this, why are you making Aunt May so super hot? It's like your brain is trying to like not like, and then of course certain eventually in the comics and even in the TV shows coming out at that time when making Spider-Man kind of TV shows, they trying to make Aunt May younger, virile, and I get it, but I think Sally Field was like a good middle ground where she's still pretty sprightly. She can go out and still be relatively active, but she's not pushing death's door at the same time. You know what I mean? She got to have a little bit of gray hair in it. But you got Marissa Tomei. That's way too hot. She is way too hot to be Aunt May. I'm sorry. But anyway, Harry Osborne. I like this version of Harry Osborne than most other iterations. The design of him is pretty dope. It's cool, very laid back. He's like the popular kid in school that you usually pretty friends with a lot of people, and not like a bully or anything like that. The only thing is, it's getting kind of grating when he kept, every time the name Spider-Man keeps popping up, he's like, that rotten Spider-Man, I hate him. And it's like, like, why is everybody looking at him like a hero? He's lame, and it's like every time, and it's like hardly anybody shared that same sentiment. You might as well just keep it to yourself. But there was a moment where dealing with Electro, he offered Spider-Man's hand, I guess kind of like starting to look upon Spider-Man in a different light. But it took, a handful of episodes to get to that point. Anyway, you also get this episode with Kingpin. And I love when it's a RIP to Michael Clark Duncan. He was an amazing choice for Kingpin. And of course, Vincent D'Onofrio plays like a good part as well. But it's like, just say what you will about like Ben Affleck's Daredevil, because if you're gonna watch the director's cut, because it's a whole lot better than the theatrical cut. Michael Clark Duncan was in a perfect casting, because it was a very big dude, very intimidating. That voice of his, get that bass in it that just inspires intimidation. And I don't care what people say, I like Colin Farrell as Bullseye in this. I like the Bullseye in like the Daredevil TV show as well. But like Colin Farrell, more often than not, always has fun with it. Because, people liked him as Penguin. And by the way, I don't really care for like a Penguin TV show. That was like a waste of money in my opinion. Nobody cares about a Penguin TV series. But yeah, but he has fun in his roles. But what was saying, like, Kingpin tricks Spider-Man, because of course, I guess this would be like I'd say 4 years after he became Spider-Man. Well, I think he became Spider-Man around his like senior year in high school. So he's already in college. So I guess it's like going on 2 years as Spider-Man. I'm guessing, trying to crunch the numbers here in my mind. But he, no pun intended, he got, to the swing of things as a hero. And it's like, the animation is pretty dope, because there's moments when he's going, it's like Batman, when he's going out of frame and he's, changing clothes and his inside his costume. There's one moment when he's, in the episode with the lizard, he's in a police interrogation, and like the lizard's going after this guy who kind of assaulted him on the street, and as Doc Connors, and he infiltrates the police room, and somehow they put the Crook and Peter in the same interrogation room, not the same room, but side by side from each other. Lights go out, and like it's all red and black, so you hardly can see anything. And Peter sees like on the other side, this guy getting assaulted by this creature, and as the lights blinking on and off, you see him like in red and black shadows. He's like changing, and he's like, just like a split second, and he's hopping on the ceiling and he's crawling through. I love that animation. That was really good. I love it when they do this kind of, just fast cut into changing his clothes. It's very Batman-esque. But anyway, like the Kingpin tricks Parker into Spider-Man into stealing this TX1 device in order to allow him to hack into different banks across the globe, the big banks, like Fort Knox and like Gestalt, I think that's called, in the bank in Germany, the famous bank in Germany. I forgot I think it's Gestalt or Deutsche. I think Deutsche. But you get the point. Each countries, iconic banks, he's just planning on him and his cronies to steal a bunch of money, but of course get stopped by Spider-Man, who everybody thinking he's like a thief now. But he managed to. But there's a moment where like he's trying to save Kingpin from falling. Of course, he weighs a lot, and then he caught him at one point, but then like he's losing his grip and he falls. He didn't die. As a matter of fact, one of the this metal thing, I think it's like an antenna, falls right on top of him, and pretty much essentially caging Kingpin, and Spider-Man webs up the whole entire thing. I thought that was pretty dope. But he should have had some serious injuries regardless. There are times that Spider-Man can get kind of gullible because he's want to be viewed as like a hero. People constantly throwing stuff at him, like in the episode with Turbojet where he's pretty much like looking like a Robin Hood stealing stuff, but he's just like a disgruntled janitor or kid on campus that people are just like protesting bulldozing of a dorm. They didn't really fully get into as to why they protesting. They didn't have like a moment to like actually have like a sit down discussion of what the kids' grievances are, and like you get a bit of the business people's proper point of view because they're associated with Harry Osborne, who has controlling interest in all this other stuff. And it's like there's a moment with Mary Jane and Harry debating amongst each other. It's like y'all could like really like make that more of a center of the discussion. And it's kind of like Civil War, where you actually have some in-depth discussions about like pro-registry or anti-registry. You didn't get that in that kind of level of this deep discussion with this. And it's kind of like, oh, as long as you stop the bad guy, the day is saved kind of situation. And of course the door gets bulldozed anyway, and just like the Turbojet mentions earlier in the episode, they just protesting just to protest and get like free slices of pizza, and it's like not really doing much. And man, you proving them right, because you just have these kids just doing the rah stuff, and it's like it equates to nothing. I thought that was such a waste. You could have done more with that. You get another like kind of one-off character named Shikata, who's pretty much like a Ronin who's hired by this rich dude who's funding this movie that Mary Jane is auditioning for, and he got all these animal trophies in his office that he wants to cage Spider-Man as part of his trophy. He wants him back alive. He hires her. Don't know why he didn't hire Kraven the Hunter, because you have him at the end of the season. Don't know why you didn't make him like a priority character for this particular role of hunting somebody. You got Kraven the Hunter. What's with this like one-off know-nothing character you just invented? That part was weird to me. But she's a cool design. She had this kind of like Katana from DC with his like magic sword. But instead of trapping souls, it gives her youth. And I guess he's been around for a long time because once Spider-Man destroys the sword that gives her power, she rapidly ages and then turns that energy in ash. Oh, by the way, this show, I won't say it gets graphic, but they don't shy away from certain things because this woman cuts off a finger of this rich man's bodyguard. Spider-Man, not on purpose, but while fighting the lizard, takes one of his arms and goes through one of the fan things on the roof, and there's no big amounts of blood anywhere, maybe a little here, like a tiny specks here and there, but he took off an arm, and it's like they don't shy away from certain things that they don't go too far with it, but it's clearly like, oh wow, y'all just showing this. It's like, oh, of course this was on MTV, so it wasn't exactly like Fox Kids, so because if it was airing there they wouldn't have allowed that. But it's like, wow, there's certain moments where it's like, though they can go there, not all the way there, but it's like you understand. But I think Jack is probably like, well, I don't know who was like the weakest villain because they're all good in their own ways, but I think Jack was kind of like it's somewhere between Jack and Shikata was tied with so far as like, no, the weakest is these group of like mercenaries, ex-KGB agents who is trying to capture Spider-Man by holding this newsroom hostage. Oh, by the way, speaking of which, you get this new character, which I kind of wish they bring into the main Spider-Man comics as a mainstay supporting character. This girl named Indy, who's also a love interest for Peter Parker, who also has like a thing for Spider-Man. Once again, this is kind of like a Felicia Hardy type of thing, but I like her as a character. She's kind of like the Lois Lane a bit. And how the season ends with her is kind of tragic, but you are with her a lot throughout the season, and like you really feel for her. She's a fun character. As far as supporting characters, she's like a cool new addition. I kind of wish Marvel bring into the fold in the comics. Same way in the PS4 Spider-Man games, like Captain Watanabe. Peter, like I said many times, Peter Parker had like at least 3 female cops that could have been his like Commissioner Gordon. Got Jean DeWolf, who you killed off in the comics, after a short stint playing as a supporting character. Then in the 90s TV show, you got Terry Lee, and then you got Captain Watanabe in the PS4 Spider-Man game. None of which stuck in the comics, or at least been brought into the comics, because they all are really good. And it's wild to me, especially Captain Watanabe. I hope that in the sequel to the game that coming out later in the year, that they, at least maybe in a DLC, expand upon that story, because she is like approaching very Punisher-esque type of mentality. And it's like all the DLC stories were so good. They did their due diligence, and I cannot wait for the sequel, because it's probably just how they're going to step it up. Because that and Miles Morales was like phenomenal, just A++ across the board, except for Speedball. Like that character was like very lame. That's probably the only thing I had against the game, is that Speedball character. She sucked. She was annoying. Her voice was so grating. I get it. You're trying to make a character based off like influencers and everything like that, which is not a bad idea, but the execution was so, not bad, but just annoying. It fell flat. It fell flat. But thanks to Peter Parker, this is why, it's like in Spider-Man Homecoming, with Iron Man said, if you're nothing without the suit, then you don't deserve it. And in this episode, despite it being my least favorite episode and least favorite villains, I like the ingenuity of Peter Parker, where he managed to, because he's trapped in there, he can't really, go sneak off to switch into costume. So you figure out a way to distract the crooks and everybody and every other hostage, so you can sneak off and change into Spider-Man to finally stop him. I thought that was pretty brilliant. Of course, you get the introduction of Electro. And of course, this is kind of like the ultimate, based on the Ultimate Universe design of the Electro. You got Max Dillon, who's pretty much like a college kid. You know those type of kids that you usually see on the news a lot, where it's like, isn't like he wants to join this fraternity because he wants to feel seen, and he has a crush on this girl. I think that's the one who was voiced by Tara Strong, and he's trying to get into this fraternity just to feel popular and have like friends, or just his popularity is kind of like the only thing that's kind of important to him. But then of course he gets hazed because in recent years, government officials and police departments kind of cracking down on colleges hazing people during fraternity and sororities, because it can get very life-threatening, and it kind of plays into play. It's like even back then you can see how dangerous it probably could have gotten back then. And of course they don't view him as like fraternity material, and to deny him, they shoot him with paintballs. So he's running out crying like a punk. And of course it was raining and thunderstorm at the time, and this is so weird, some gas canister, which it seems like a fire hydrant. You're not like you're near like some kind of science building or anything like that, but some gas hits him at the same time lightning hits him, and he turns into the Electro. And like I said, this show can like really push the boundaries. That's very let's just say PG-13, but it can if they lean into it, they could have gone R, because he went after the Leaf fraternity guy, and right in front of a lot of the kids at the party, he electrocuted this dude. He isn't like a burnt crisp or anything like that, but clearly he was electrocuted. He was pronounced dead. He just straight on electrocuted this guy, and it was like, oh my god, I forgot they did that. I was like, whoa. But thanks to Spider-Man, he managed to stop Electro by kind of grounding him, and you assume he's like kind of like his electricity was dispersed, because he had to use science in order to figure out about the electrons and how to deal with that. So for what everybody knew, he's like gone. Of course, he makes a return towards the end of the season, and of course he goes after I think Sarah. That's the girl he had a crush on's name, Sally. And he tries to turn her into another Electro. It's kind of funny because currently in the comics right now, there's a female Electro named Faye or something like that. Francie Fry or something like that. And she's like the current Electro. It would have been kind of cool callback, and like somebody was doing their homework and decided to make this character based off of this show and made her into like a comic book character, and made her into the current Electro, and that would have been a nice little thing. Of course, I don't know how many people remember this show, because I don't remember it being advertised extensively like it probably should have. Maybe it did. I was probably too young, because I remember happening upon this show as a kid, because currently right now when you see things advertised on social media and TV, they put in the work to make sure it's advertised properly for the most part. And like I don't know about back then, because I was relatively in my teens. I wasn't really like because you have like TV guides still, but yeah, some form of like, if you've been watching TV, if something's advertised, you might catch your eye, you check it out, or try to remember or write down when it's supposed to be airing, and then of course you record it so you can watch it when you can. Of course, he stops Electro by putting him into this kind of like big storage thing, where he stores like electricity, kind of, I guess like a battery, I guess. And then he chucks that thing into the ocean, and it goes off like a big bomb, and that's the last you see of Electro. Normally, he always comes back in some shape or form. Oh, uh, uh, I gotta say, my favorite episode. Honestly, my favorite episode is the one Head Over Heels, where you get this character who's pretty much like a discount Harley Quinn almost. This girl named Christina, who Tara Strong should have probably voiced instead. No, actually, she did voice him, like confusing the two. It wasn't Sally, it was Christina. So it was pretty, apt. She pretty much just played Harley Quinn in Christina form, where she and Peter was partnering up for this like science project. She takes him to his dorm room, and to be honest, he is pretty hot, but she's obviously it's like Harley Quinn merges with Helga from Hey Arnold, because she is super obsessed with Spider-Man. She has like a scrapbook. There's a shrine. That's why I say Helga, because she has a literal shrine in her closet, i.e. Helga from Hey Arnold got a complete shrine of him. She is super obsessed, and she's tinkering with a device that kind of looks like the Riddler's box device in Batman Forever, that she straps on and connects to Peter Parker, so she can has ESP machines, so you can have something that can be able to read people's minds. And of course, she has some stuff powered up into the outlets that causes a surge that fries her brain a bit. Of course, thanks to Peter, he managed to stop it before it does any serious damage. But now she gone real kind of went overboard, because now she's hearing and seeing images of any image of Spider-Man. She's like feel like she's talking directly to, and he's telling her to find him so they can be together. And of course, he's telling her to commit all these crimes just to get his attention. And now she's going out there to MJ, because she sees her as an obstacle. Go, you in love with MJ? And it's like, the heart wants what the heart wants, but if you want to be with me, you know what you have to do. And I love this episode because they're in on top of this building, in this kind of makeshift chapel. People usually get married on rooftops and have this whole thing, and she straps the machine on to Spider-Man to prove I can read your mind, and it'll show that you really love me, and she's trying to figure out who he is underneath the mask, because it's the only way to prove that. It's not she's trying to force her thoughts onto him. So it's probably thanks to Spider-Man's probably willpower, because this is kind of what do you call it? Very forced plot. It's not the words I'm looking for, but it's kind of you just written his way out of the whole situation. But I guess he's stronger will. He managed to force a different image in his mind and have her think that's it. So she thinks it's the coffee guy on the campus grounds, as thinking he's Spider-Man. And of course, she runs away with MJ while Spider-Man trying to save, because he has this kind of adhesive gun that kind of almost spits acid or something, and she hits on a part of the building that's about to fall on top of some people on below ground. Spider-Man saves them while she's running off on the elevator, and of course, while trying to stop the elevators beside them from crashing, because he keeps shooting wildly. And of course, Spider-Man manages to save them and MJ, but he's webbing the elevator with Christina on it. But she's seeing him cuddle up next to MJ, she really loses it and shoots the web line completely by accident because he's trying to probably aim it at them, but it breaks the web line. It crashes the rest of the way there. She ends up luckily with just like a fractured neck, and of course she's carted off saying like, "Oh, he's the coffee guy. He's the coffee guy." And MJ asks like, "You're not really the coffee guy, right?" It's like, he's like, "No, not really." Of course, MJ, of course, has a thing for Spider-Man and Peter Parker at the same time. Of course, at this point in time, she doesn't know about Peter Parker being Spider-Man. Of course, Peter obviously won't tell her, but he doesn't want to endanger her life. That song and dance. But I love that episode. That's probably my favorite episode. I really wish they could have done more with. If they continue on with this, they could have done a lot with Christina. She was so much fun. I love her. But then again, I got a thing for Crazy Girl, so it's like, take what I say with a grain of salt. But you also got a thing with, Flash Thompson, which only shows up one episode. You'll think if he's like a part of the supporting cast, he's shown up a little bit in previous episodes, but he has like a thing where this scientist is giving these kind of like smart drugs, this formula, into these dunderhead, twin criminals who previously were so dumb they actually accidentally shot themselves in the foot one time, but now they has like a superior IQ, but the side effect is fatal. You won't find that out until after like Flash Thompson gets it as part of his like flyer that he answered to, so he can try to ace his test. So once he gets it injected, right away he starts speaking, very intelligently. It is a funny line where it's like, man, it's like I got a lot of stuff in my head right now, and the doctor is like, those are called thoughts. You'll get used to them. That part made me laugh. I was like, those are called thoughts. Oh my god, that got me. It's because it's been a while since I've seen this show, so there's certain things that probably made me laugh a long time ago. You know the feeling. It's like something you haven't seen in a while that still gets you years later. So he's impressing Sally and MJ on campus with his knowledge of Shakespeare and English, and he's like literally doing plays and rehearsals on the campus lawn in front of everybody with MJ. And she's just like, so like, if not infatuated, but she's really impressed that there's such a change. Like, oh, you just gotta introduce me to this tutor. But then you start to notice the side effects. And of course, Peter is trying to help Flash, despite Flash being like a total jock meathead. Even when he's smart, he's still, not smart enough to realize he's being a complete jerk. But of course, he goes to him as Spider-Man because he loves Spider-Man. He'll listen to him. It's like, hey, you need anything? You want me to get you home or to a doctor? It's like, just take it easy, okay? And he goes back to the doctor, and they come to realize that they need somebody already intelligent to utilize as a baseline, formulate, fine-tune the formula, so when they give it to somebody who isn't so bright, they can better handle it without it being fatal to them. Because their limited brain capacity, intelligence can't handle that much, neurons and electrons and all that stuff is like being force funneled into their brains. So Spider-Man, after like Flash trying to trick Peter Parker to coming to the facility so they can use him as a lab rat, Peter finally realized what might happen, so he comes in as Spider-Man, and it's kind of fun moment here where he's been drugged up, so his power has kind of like been diminished slightly, while the two twin criminals are losing not only brain capacity, but they're starting to get weak too at the same time. So it's kind of like it's like two sleepy children trying to fight each other, and it's just kind of funny. It's very slapstick. But eventually it got through his system, and thanks to the help of Andy, he managed to get some coffee in him just to get like a jump start again. and he finally takes down that scientist who's about to nearly kill Flash. But thanks to Flash, who still has the brain capacity, tells him the formula needed to, at least cure him, but bring him back to his previous state of intelligence. That was actually a fun episode too. But then you get one with Silver Sable. I need to read some Silver Sable comics for the channel because she actually is an awesome character, and I think it was thanks to the Spider-Man TV show, not TV show, because she showed up in the TV show too. Thanks to the Spider-Man PS4 game, really made me love Silver Sable because I thought she was she's a cool character, just not that dissimilar to like Black Widow, but there's more to her than that, and I really should look up some Silver Sable comics and do like a review at some point in the future because like she's actually honestly probably like a more dope character than we probably give her credit. So she is trying to take down because she's a mercenary for hire, but she only kills like bad guys, not that dissimilar to Deadpool. And assuming that she's going after the mayor, thanks to her little, instead of just coming out and say it to this superhero, she just gives him this vague line about like things are more than what it seems, Spider-Man, and left it at that. So Peter had to dig deep and realize that the assistant to at least some other political person that's or I forgot what position he was like playing at, but a guy, this blonde-haired guy that was with the mayor, turns out to be an assassin that's trying to worm his way cozy up to this mayor. So because this mayor has aspects of getting to the White House, and he wants to be able to ride along with him so he can just pretty much take over. Assuming he's trying to vie for vice president, take him out so he can just automatically become president, and of course trouble springs forth from there. But of course, thanks to Spider-Man, he managed to stop that and stopping Silver Sable from killing somebody. Then the show ends in a two-parter with these. I could have sworn I remember these twins. They always stuck with me because their powers, because they're not. Their powers not too dissimilar to most psychics. The only thing is they're powerful together to force images or mess with people's minds more effectively if they're together. And I could have sworn they showed up in like a previous episode, but no, it turns out because it's mentioned they was captured by Spider-Man at one point in part 1 because they were being hauled away to a different prison, but they have to constantly be sedated because they, as the police driver mentioned how to this other police driver, how she messed with like the weakest guard's mind that caused him to like shoot his fellow other guards, so they had to constantly keep them sedated. But they get loose and they mess with Spider-Man's mind and thinking that it fabricate this illusion that things are going so well with him being Spider-Man and being with MJ that he reveals who he is. They end up figuring out, don't know why it worked here and not with Christina, but whatever. But I guess they were smart enough to, because Christina was like a crazy nut, but these two are like more proficient. And I guess you can consider them like mutants, I guess. So they were able to like, make some elaborate play in his mind to lower his guard. So now they know who he really is, and they convinced him to think that after he confesses real identity to MJ, right then and there, she got taken out by Kraven the Hunter, and now he has like a burning hatred for Kraven. But it turns out, like I said, it's all fabrication in his mind because these twins has a grudge against Kraven the Hunter because he hunted down and killed their parents. So now they sent Spider-Man out like a hitman to go take out Kraven, who just so happens to be in town, I guess making some kind of deal or whatever. And after something Kraven said, it really, or not something he said, but he looked, because he remembered in one of the fantasies, he was fighting Kraven on top of a building with this neon lights that they bump into and broke. And he looks outside the window and he sees that building and the sign is intact. And now he's questioning, what the heck? This is happening. When's the last time we saw you? Kraven said, we saw this, last time I saw you was many months ago when you put me away. And after the cops come to arrest Kraven, he asked them, when's the last time I did this and this and this? And he mentioned it was a couple of months ago. Woo woo. And so now he realized the twins were messing with his mind. None of what I saw was real. So he starts going after the twins and go save MJ because they have her as hostage. He gets Christina as Peter Parker. Get Christina as a help to find these twins. They find them, and while saving MJ, they mess with his mind again, and because Christina, he ends up choking and injuring Christina. She ends up falling off the roof, and she ends up in a coma. And of course, this distraughts Peter Parker because he thought he was going after the female twin. But so now it's everybody is completely against him. Even MJ is against Spider-Man because she was there and saw what happened. And of course, for all everybody know, Spider-Man not realizing. Well, here's the thing: why is it that they don't realize the twins are loose and causing all this ruckus? And the mere possibility that they mess with his mind, because he wouldn't do that obviously on purpose. This is he never killed, not once, and didn't even toy with the notion that is a possibility. That's always been wild to me in a lot of comic books. It's he never killed, unless you're dealing with somebody like Deadpool or Silver Sable or somebody that actually, even Wolverine, someone who actually is known for taking people's lives. You can probably buy that more so. But someone like Captain America or Spider-Man, or Daredevil, that's characters that's been widely known for all their stint as a hero, has never taken a person's life, all of a sudden takes his life out of the freaking blue, innocent life, no less. Nobody's about to look too much deep into that. But, whatever. They saw what they saw, so they just went with it. So now Peter Parker is on a vendetta now, so he goes after the twins, sedates the guy, and then goes after the girl, but in a secret warehouse. But she ends up crashing into these, containers that explode. And for all intents and purposes, it seems like the twins died in that. But now, after what happened with Christine, he's that's the only time we actually, do the whole I'm Spider-Man no more situation, and tosses the costume into the river. And it's in a suitcase and tosses in the river. And this is where it ends, on this kind of big cliffhanger. Yeah, I dig the show. I really wish they could have bring it back. Yeah, Neil Patrick Harris is an amazing voice actor for Spider-Man. But yeah, for some reason they didn't get the funding they needed, despite the popularity of the show apparently. But it's crazy. You left it on. It's I hate when shows like that just ends on a weird cliffhanger like that. But this show is on Disney Plus. I highly recommend you guys check it out. It's very fun. Yeah. So if you're watching this on YouTube or Odyssey, leave a comment below. Let me know what you think Spider-Man, the new animated series, aka MTV Spider-Man. And yeah, let's try to get this video to 100 likes. In a couple of days, or at least 3 days, I will have access to my YouTube channel, so I can start uploading. I have a lot of videos on Twitch right now that's been just sitting there, and I'm gonna be probably spending the entire Thursday uploading stuff. So normally I'll do my movie spoiler reviews there, but I wanted to move it to Friday. So because you're gonna have a load of videos coming to you guys, so look out for that. So anyway, the next and final Spider-Man TV show that I'll be covering is Spectacular Spider-Man. And would you believe that only had one season? I thought it at least had two. That was weird. It felt wrong. But yeah, that'll be the next and final Spider-Man TV show that I'll be covering. And they'll free up some time for me to, get through the Spider-Man comics that I want to review. But once I'm done, because Spider-Verse will be like the wrap up before I start getting to some X-Men stuff, covering like individual X-Men characters. Like Cyclops will be the first one. Then like Jean Grey, Gambit, Beast, Nightcrawler. I'm gonna save like Wolverine to the near last, because I think Wolverine's already popular. We don't need to like just get with him right out the gate. And I think Cyclops needs some love, so I'm making him first on the list. But anyway, and then of course the X-Men TV shows, 90s show, the X-Men Evolution, Wolverine and the X-Men. Those will be the other TV shows that I'll be getting into. But anyway, I will see you guys. Well, I don't know if I'll get into Forspoken tonight, but tomorrow night I'll get back into more Forspoken. But anyway, I will see you guys soon. Take care. Have a great night. Peace.